And Vegas is in the books. Welcome in, everybody, to another post-race stream. Not as much of a banger as last week. Be sure to lick the like button. I'm already seeing people. I'm seeing people happy. I'm seeing people bitching and moaning. So we're back to normal NASCAR fandom. We'll get to these super chats in a moment, but we're going to go through the finishing order of this race as well as some of the stuff about it. We have plenty of notes to go over, but definitely not as heart pounding as last week. We can, I think that this was a typical Hendrick Motorsports win at Vegas. But overall, I thought it was a better Vegas race than usual for the Gen 7. I don't know why. I've always I think this track just isn't as good for this car as the other mile and a halves are for the most part. But I want you to do something for me. In the chat, spam a number between 1 and 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest. What did you think of this race? Was it really good, bad? What do you think? So let me know. 10, 1, 7. I see you. Let's see. A lot of 5s. I see you 7s and 8s being the majority of what's going through here. Damn, look at them go. So that's really what I'm that's a lot what I'm seeing through the chat. I mean, I'd probably give it overall a 7. It's just, I know I'm going to get a lot of heat from Hendrick fans on this one. It's just kind of a boring Hendrick win. There's not many other ways I really think too much to put it. I know that people won't be happy with that, but it is what it is, man. When they have the best cars and they're on it, they are on it. So the 2024 Pennzoil 400 was 267 laps, 3 hours, 24 seconds. So almost 3 hours on the dot, with not including a red flag. There were 24 lead changes, 15 leaders. Much of the leaders after about the first 30, 40 laps were under green flag conditions, pit stop, stuff like that. 6 cautions on the day as well. Kyle Larson gets the first of what is probably many wins this year. Nobody saw this coming. He gets it 4/10 over Tyler Reddick. We will talk in a moment about Tyler Reddick because I think multiple times in that final run, Reddick completely sold that race away. I think Reddick completely blew it, and I think you can see it on his face and how dejected he was in his interview. I think Tyler Reddick should have won that race, and I will say why in a bit. But he finishes about 4/10 behind Larson. Then you got Ryan Blaney in third, Ross Chastain holding on 2 tires for a 4th place run. 5th is Ty Gibbs. 6th, great run for Noah Gragson. A much needed run. He is for sure in the positive when it comes to points now. We do not have more points anymore than Noah Gragson or Ryan Preece for that matter, though Preece was MIA. After that, we got Martin Truex Jr. 7th, 8th, Denny Hamlin, 9th, Joey Logano, William Byron, top 10, should have done probably a top 3 run today. Daniel Suarez in 11th, 12th, Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott about as out of the action as he was last year. I mean, he really was not a factor in any way. This time, though, he actually raced this race. Then you got Brad Keselowski in 13th, 14th, Eric Jones, 15th, Carson Hocevar. 16th place for Austin Dillon. Ran better than that for a lot of the day, but typical RCR run for him. Then 17th, you got Ricky Stenhouse. 18th, Alex Bowman. Hemrick in 19th and 20th, Josh Berry. Chase Briscoe, 21st in the 14 car. Then you got John Hunter Nemechek, 22nd. 23rd is Ryan Preece. Todd Gilliland, 24th. Michael McDowell, 25th. 26th place run, abysmal finish to the day for Kyle Busch. Nobody to blame but him and that team. They did it to themselves today. Then you got Justin Haley in 27th, Derek Kraus, 28th, 29th, Austin Cindric, ran better, never could recover. 30th, Harrison Burton, about on brand. And 31st, Kaz Grala. Those are your guys on the lead lap. Corey LaJoie finished a lap down in 32nd. Was amazing for the first probably 2/3 of this race, especially for Spire standards. Again, just mistakes, did not make, and especially a very big mistake, did not get the finish he probably deserved. Complete train wreck of a day for Christopher Bell in 33rd, 2 laps down. He just couldn't get out of his own way today. Him and you know, I know the first one is more of an accident, but that second one just plainly on the driver. JJ Yaley 6 down in 34th. Bubba Wallace 35th, 13 laps down, because it just seemed like too good of a start of the year compared to how he normally is doing. And it's kind of regression to the mean after the super speedways, even though it was basically just a lug not coming off. Zane Smith 36th, horrible start to his day as well. And then Chris Buescher finishes last, only car out of the race. Again, just tough run for him as well. Again, I think this race was very much a race that could have been different for a lot of different drivers compared to usual. There were a lot of different drivers who ran top 10 for much of the day. Carson Hocevar, you know, somebody who I think 15th, I think he probably could have ran higher, iffy, but Corey LaJoie, 32nd, should have been up there running for a top 15 at the very least. Christopher Bell had a fast enough car, should have been running at least top 10 today. William Byron, yeah, he got a good 10th place finish, should have probably been running up for the win. I don't think he had a better car than Larson or Reddick, but I think he had a car on par with Kyle Busch, who, 26th position, should have been up front at least in the top 8 or 9 in this race. Easily. Just terrible, terrible mistakes. But you know, that's the way it goes. And you got some regression to the mean with different teams as well. 24th and 25th for the front row cars. That's about, you know, that's a little lower actually than probably McDowell usually runs. But Gilliland about where he'd run. Cindric, the speed is there, at least in this race. And to have the speed at Las Vegas is definitely what you need. So better run for him. Good recovery, I will say, for Eric Jones with his 14th place run. Jones at one point was out to lunch. I mean, running 31st on speed, but they managed to get the car fixed up, get the adjustments needed for it, and he ended up at the end of the day with a way better finish than he deserved. Bowman was Bo mid today, not too good. Overall, you know, I think he got maybe in the top 10 a little bit at one point. Maybe there's some cycles of pit strategy and stops, but 18th on the day. So now we can start forming the picture of who's got it when it comes to speed, when it comes to strategy, when it comes to just overall execution, and who doesn't. We know which teams are the fastest. If I'm not mistaken, Denny Hamlin's team had an 8.8 second pit stop, 4 tires, should say. 4-tire pit stop, 8.8 seconds. You know, Noah Gragson, surprising speed at the end of this race, was racing basically for the 3rd spot in a battle with Blaney, Chastain, Gibbs, Truex, and Hamlin. I don't think that's normal for what we would talk about normally with Noah Gragson, especially last year. But they put a good car under him, and he drove it up to the front. Again, we'll read those super chats in a moment. Let's just get through a good amount of the race itself. We will pop the post-race results up there. I probably spelled someone's name wrong, so laugh at me in the chat to get my attention about it. I'm looking through really quick. I think we're good to go, but full results of all 37 teams up there for where they finished. Again, overall, I think the race started on a high and then just sort of like simmered out in a little bit. But let's get into this and we'll break down the race piece by piece. Joey Logano on the pole. That's about the last we'd see of him in the top 5 after like 5 laps. You know, clean start for the most part, but Larson would get by him on lap 3 and he would drop like a rock. A lot of this race was Logano running, you know, mid-teens, 20s, like just he managed to recover and he was running up in the top 10 at the end, and I know that, but surprisingly poor start for the race after leading those first few laps. But again, Larson leads, same time as that. Zane Smith's in the wall. I believe he finishes 13 down, same as Bubba Wallace. And from there, it's just, okay. It's okay. And that's the best way I can say for Joey Logano since his championship. He has been okay. He's not been bad, but he's not been good. So I guess for Logano standards, he's been bad. But lap 10, we'd have our first big moment, a right rear flat for Christopher Bell. This would already start the mix-up of different stops and 2 tires versus 4 tires, strategies, stuff like that. On lap 27, or about 9 laps into the next run, we would see Chris Buescher slam into the wall. His wheel just came off. I know it looked weird. I'll say that, because it basically just completely fell apart like a Lego set, Like, when you when you make like a Lego house and you throw it on the ground and just everything spreads everywhere, that's what his tire looked like. You had the just each individual piece you could see when Fox slowed it down fly off. And I'll say this, outside of a few moments, and I will get into those moments, I did think Fox did a pretty good job of improving the broadcast. There were a lot more I noticed panned out shots. So thank you, Dale Jr., for that one. Not the greatest either, but it again, step forward. There's some steps back, and we will talk about them. I'm not absolving Fox of their Foxisms, but more saying that I do enjoy seeing some progression as they go. Now, because of Buescher's wreck and how hard it was into the outside wall, which, by the way, that will be a penalty this week, NASCAR actually had to throw them under a red flag because they had to basically weld the wall back into place. The safety team was supposed to park next to the wall, but just because of the banking, they had to park on the apron. You didn't want to have it running back and forth, putting track workers' lives at risk. So I'm all for the red flag. I think it only lasted like 10 minutes. It wasn't that long. For you new fans, welcome to NASCAR, where we wait for everything. By the way, for all over 750 of you in here, lick that like button. Subscribe if you are new. We are, I believe we're almost at 73.7, I want to say. I can check really quick, and let's see if we can hit 73.7 by the end of the stream. We're currently about 20 away. So if you're new, definitely jump aboard. But once we get back from the red flag, we have a restart. Suarez would get the lead on this through some strategy. Kyle Busch gets up there, starts actually looking like Kyle Busch, which I think is a good refresher. Did not finish the way that I think he should have, but led, I think, 18 laps or so on the day. In this run as well, William Byron has basically a tarp fly onto the front of his car. I think they'd said the temps were up to like 350 or so, and so he had to pit, gets put almost 2 laps down, and from there he has to basically recover the entire day. While this is going on, Kyle Larson is going through the field, doing Kyle Larson things, and he battles Busch for the lead for a little bit. Kyle does hold him off for a bit, but it ends up being the 5 team. That team's just too damn good sometimes. Larson would end up winning the stage. Then after him, there'd be Reddick finishing second, Truex third. Busch fell back because he had been on 2 tires as well, like Suarez was. He finished 4th in the stage. 5th was Hamlin. 6th was Gibbs. 7th, LaJoie. Chastain in 8th in stage 1. Cindric 9th. Again, Cindric really ran well today. Didn't get the finish he probably deserved from it. And recovering up to 10th was Christopher Bell. He got a 10th place finish, 1 stage point in doing that. And we move on to stage 2. So stage 1 was the crazy stage. That was the one that everything is constantly just churning, different stuff changing, all of that. Come to lap 89, I believe, we have a restart. Teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing, the 19 and the 11 up front. Denny would take the lead, and Corey LaJoie pops up there. So let's talk about Spire. I see Fox already has Family Guy on, so we'll turn that off. Let's talk about Spire for a moment, because I think today Spire was the feel-good story. I wish so much that Zane Smith wouldn't have had that trouble early, because I truly believe he would have ran up front, at least in the top 15 to 20. But Carson Hocevar ran, I'd say, 7th to 16th all day. And for a rookie in a Spire car, I don't care what connections you have, it is still a Spire team working on it. They're still working their way up. That's pretty damn good. So Hocevar, again, 15th on the day, right around where he ran, deserves that finish. Now you got LaJoie. He ended up 32nd, but he was running top 5 and top 10 for much of this race. The speed is there, and I'm really excited to see, maybe not as much Phoenix, but like Kansas coming up, in a couple of months. Texas in a couple of months. Some of these tracks that are similar to Las Vegas, I'm interested to see if this is a one-off or if they really do have this stuff. And I kind of want to put a poll here. With what we've seen so far, of course, we have some in the hole, some, running differently in different races, whatnot. Which of the Spire drivers finishes higher in, higher in points this year? Because I'm really curious to see what we're gauging them on right now. I know that Zane Smith had his issues today, but still at the same time, like I think he would have ran about the same as his teammates today. So we're gonna put it in the poll right now: LaJoie, Zane, or Hocevar. Who finishes higher in points? I definitely think you could see LaJoie, but I think raw talent-wise, Zane and Hocevar are ahead of him in that. If they gain the experience, have less mistakes early on. But I'm telling you, while it did not have the full-on results it should have had today, Spire's, I won't say rebuild, because they aren't really exactly rebuilding anything. But their step forward is going to be a storyline I think should be watched this year, because they've shown the ability before to outrun the equipment that they do have. So again, interested seeing where that goes from that point forward. Now it wouldn't be long before Kyle Larson would take the lead back around lap 105, and this is right before we have green flag pit stops, which screws the day for a lot of people. First off, Austin Cindric, Ross Chastain, Daniel Hemrick speeding. Chastain's the only one that can recover. Shocker, had the best car. He should recover better. From there, you have also Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace ran probably in the mid-teens for much of the day, I'd say, before he had this issue. Now, could his car have gotten better and he run as fast as his teammate? Maybe. But basically, the lug gets stuck on his car and ruins any hope that he could have had. He loses 4 laps. I think they sent him out there still with it on there because they just couldn't take it off. It's the complete opposite of what happened to Chris Buescher. And Fox missed the entire thing. Like, there was a few cautions we'll talk about in a bit. But Bubba had gotten from, I believe, 4 laps down to raced his way and gotten lucky dogs and wave arounds and such back to a lap down. And I think after the stage ended, he was for a moment on the lead lap before it took him 12 laps to get the tire off. They had to basically, I think from what they said, they had to saw the lug off. And Fox never covered it. And I get it. You know, he wasn't really a factor all that much for the race win. You know, he wasn't up there battling in the top 10 much at all. Did help Tyler Reddick at one point. We'll talk about in a bit. But you got to cover that. That's one of the most popular guys, whether you love him or hate him. Bubba Wallace brings eyes to the sport, and you have a lot of new people coming in who probably only know maybe him and 2 or 3 other drivers. You got to cover that if you're Fox. You can't just sit on the sideline while that one is going down. I see Bill Mercury in the cat cut his nut off. I will say the booth had its ups and downs today, but I did appreciate Kyle Larson and everybody dogpiling on Boyer, and Boyer being a good sport about it. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, we're going to end the poll here. Wow. Lopsided on every side of it here. LaJoy, 63% of the vote for who would finish higher in points this year. Hocevar, 32%. Yeah, I'm still stuck in the results part of it. And 3% to Zane Smith, which I could probably guess, seeing how Zane's been on the screen the least of these guys and had this issue today. But with all of that, you know, we come down to the end of stage 2. Christopher Bell spins off 2. That's just on him. We have bad stops and such from Ty Gibbs, who has an uncontrolled tire, which was just a brain-dead mistake that his team made. Kyle Busch, slow stop. I think Brad Keselowski had to back into his stall. Restarting with a few laps to go in the stage, and it's Bowman who stays out for a bit versus Larson. A lot of racing throughout, but Larson again sweeps the stages, gets max points today because of getting the win as well over Reddick. Then Hamlin, Blaney, Truex, Elliott, Austin Dillon, who ran pretty well today for a lot of the day, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, and Eric Jones round out the top 10 in the second stage. Final stage comes up. 95 to go. We have a restart to 5:45 up front. Larson gets the lead. Again, the restarts today were crazy, and I think the restarts should be probably the most positive thing we look at in this race. A lot of 3, 4, 5 wide racing in it, and absolute craziness in that as well. And it takes about 25 to 30 laps each run for Reddick to start running down Larson. And he's doing this because he's getting a bump draft from Bubba Wallace, who's now at this point 13 laps down, which he'd remain the rest of the day. And Bubba has fresh tires as well. Bumps his way up to the 5. And, you know, we see a bit of a battle before pit stops. And this is another turning point for a lot of people in this day. Larson gains about 3.5 seconds over Reddick during this cycle of green flag stops. And Kyle Busch pits outside the box, slid through. That's on the driver. It's on the team for not pushing the car back. Just all around dumb move by the entire 8 team on that one today. And cost Busch probably 20 positions better or worse than he could have been today. I think he finished 26th. He probably could have been racing up there with Blaney, Chastain, Gibbs, Gregson, Truex, and Hamlin. But that mistake cost him fully. Now, with 35 to go, we get what ends up being our final caution of the day. Corey LaJoy spins off 2, pretty much ends his day as well. And with this, well, everyone gets 4 tires. Chastain takes 2. Restarts on the front row with Larson, holds him back, battles about 5 or so laps with him, almost clears him, but ultimately he can't keep Larson back. And this restart is the first of 2 reasons why I think Reddick completely sold this race in a bet. I'm not saying he gave it away, but just Reddick had the position on the bottom 3 wide with Larson. And you see in the corner on the restart, Larson washes up because he reacts to that. Reddick backed out, at least from what I saw. Reddick backed out on that final restart. And I think him backing out not only gave Larson the edge on him through the corner, and Chastain for that matter, but it sent him back to about 4th or 5th position, battling, having cars ahead of him who wouldn't have been otherwise. And I think that if he stays aggressive, maybe they wreck. But you're going for the win. You have probably the best car in the field out there. A car that can race through traffic, a car that can race up there with Larson. I think him being timid on that restart, I think that is the first of 2 things that cost him this race. He did catch back up to him. You know, he fell to about a second back by the time he got past Chastain for the 2nd position. Came up to about half a second back, and then it was just an aero game. Just Larson trying to get dirty air on his nose. him trying to get into a different line as Larson so that he doesn't have these problems. And it's just this cat and mouse game back and forth. And with 3 to go, he's there. And he just never goes back up to the top lane. Larson wouldn't go up to the wall to defend. He'd give him like half a lane. He'd still give him some clean air. But Reddick kept going back to the bottom and just following Larson. I know Larson probably played really good on faking him out too, so I'm not taking that away from Kyle Larson in any way. I think that is a big problem with this race, and definitely the Las Vegas races in particular with this car is the dirty air. But him not trying the high line one more time in the last 3 laps, I think that also cost him. I mean, when you have someone like Larson who is basically putting together a perfect race, you cannot afford to make mistakes like that. And yeah, I know you can't get rid of dirty air. Like, no shit. I know that. But what I'm saying is it is very prevalent at Las Vegas compared to a Kansas or a Homestead or you name it. But at that point, again, Larson's running a perfect race. Reddick and that team made too many mistakes, too timid, and that's what cost him, I think, the win. I think Reddick should have gotten past him the same way I think Bell should have last year. But ultimately, that's just not how it rolled out. But yeah, it just is what it is. You know, you're going to have dirty air there, but it is much more prevalent at Las Vegas than at most other 1.5 miles, in my opinion. And I think that's part of the reason why Las Vegas outside of Texas has probably been the worst 1.5 miles of the ones we still race at. So I see Spencer is in the chat. Spencer was at Las Vegas today, so pretty awesome there. It's always fun being at a race. Solid crowd, not a sold out crowd like I think a lot were selling it to be, but still pretty good. Really quick, let's get to the super chats and member chats here. Tyler, thanks for being a member for 7 months, saying Byron probably had the fastest car, just unlucky with the bag. I don't think he had the fastest car, but I think he had top 3 car easily. And I think with the right circumstances, I think he would have competed for the win. Should have been top 3 today. Hunter Nixon Fishing, thank you for the 10. The Gen 7 continues to show out at 1.5 mile tracks. Way to go, Larson. Again, I still think it was a very solid race. I don't want people thinking that I think it's going to be, that it was an awful race or anything like that. I thought it was a solid race. Probably I'd give it a 7 if we're still rolling with the out of 10 rankings that we gave it. Austin, thank you for the 2. Shout out to the 1 for the P4 strategy finish. Yeah, I mean, again, Chastain for much of the day after his issues was running below 15th. So as long as they finished above 15th, 16th position, it was a win. They got a top 5 out of it. Great points day. Bailey, thank you for the 2. Noah, 2 top 10s in 3 races. Where'd it go? It just reset on me. Sorry. Where did it go? Jesus Christ. That penalty is brutal. Yeah, that penalty is going to be haunting that team, I think, and the 41 for much of the year, because they're still going to probably be way back in the points. And then Austin, thank you for the 5. Why would anyone hate Hendrick Motorsports? I understand being a fan of someone else, but Hendrick is the heart and soul of NASCAR. It's undeniable. I mean, they probably don't like him because, one, they win a lot, and no offense to you Hendrick fans, but Hendrick is boring as shit nowadays. Like it's like fucking sandpaper. And I'm not saying that that's a wrong thing to do, but when you look at the other personalities that have popped up the last couple of years, and then you basically have the clean SpongeBob meme for Hendrick Motorsports being like, hey, how you doing? Like it gets boring. I don't hate Hendrick. But a lot of people are bored out of their mind of Hendrick Motorsports, and it's not just the on-track product either. Just listen to Jeff Gordon basically say, we're never going to ever get involved in anything, and then Hendrick put a bounty on Chastain's head if he gets into his car again. It's about the best way I could put it. Napa Racing Fan, thank you for the 2. HendrickCars.com sweep. Yeah, that's true. Raja got the win in that car. 9 and 48 need to step it up. Yeah, definitely. Chrome Diesel for the 2. 222 Larson Verstappen. It was very, I guess, races like this are about the closest that NASCAR is going to get to an F1 domination. They're never going to get back to that again. Like the days of teams winning by 15 seconds are so rare. They're almost gone. Not gone completely, but they're very rare. I mean, like Riley Herbst win last year and at Vegas of all tracks, in the Xfinity Series, is such an anomaly for nowadays. Like you'd have to have the perfect circumstances for something crazy like that. Bryce, thank you for the 2. Number 5, Kyle Larson. Let's go. There's going to be a lot of happy Larson fans. The thing is that him getting these wins early means they can just basically go balls to the wall for the next, 23 races? So, I do not think this is even close to the only win Larson's going to get even before the playoffs themselves. He puts up races like that, doesn't get wrecked at Kansas at the end, drives a bit better and takes care of his stuff like he did today. I mean, you could see him winning 4 or 5 races before Atlanta. Atlanta's where we start now. I have the damn schedule on my desk. I can check. Yeah, Atlanta. That's where we start the playoffs now. Ripa, thank you for the 5. I feel like Tyler Reddick's pit crew is the Stuart Haas of pit crews. That's just 23-11. They're just god awful. I don't know what it is, but that entire team, just they can't, like, either on accident or just on their own bad stops, cannot ever get out of their own way early in seasons, and it always puts them in a hole that they have to dig out of. Now Reddick was able to dig out of it, and the bubble one was a freak incident, but it's like still it feels like the same song and dance for the last 3 years or 4, whatever it is. Marky Mark, thank you for the 5. Very enjoyable race, 8 out of 10. Also, Fox broadcast was good. I do think it was a lot better. Love the race update graphic. Yeah, I think they have improved a lot this year, at least in the Cup Series. Lower Series does need some work, but I think they've improved a lot. Thank you for the gifted membership from Quattro. And Sly Supersonic for the 5. I can already tell that that 2024 is going to be a bad sporting year for me. After 2 months, none of my teams or athletes in any type of sport are doing well. Yeah, it's rough, buddy. I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling. Luckily, I have enough sports teams. At least one is probably doing well. And now that I don't have a driver, it's always fun because I always can mess with other people. Need for Speed, thank you for the 2. Reddick going down pit road is my biggest stressor. Yeah, again, that team should probably be way higher overall, and I think he should have won today. I think he should have won. This is one that I think Junior was talking about on his show this week of ones that got away. And I think he was and the week before, and I know he's talking about some of the Talladega races that got away. I think this is one as a Reddick fan and then Reddick himself that I think we'll look at as one that got away. And then David Bell, thanks for the membership and the $2 super chat, saying these tires sucked ass. Every set was different. See, I'm gonna, I wouldn't know because I will say the broadcast really didn't cover too much. Were there only 2 pit reporters today? Because I remember hearing only mostly from Jamie Little and Regan Smith. But there definitely needs to be some things improved for Vegas in the fall. I'll say that. Though it was not the crazy tire catastrophe day many of us might have thought it would be in the first 30 laps. Hunter Nixon Fishing for the 5. I want to thank you for that. Kyle Busch had a top 5 car, I felt, but that penalty was inexcusable for the whole team. Agreed. And penalties like that and dumb mistakes like that are going to cost him a lot because I believe Gateway his last win last year? You might have to give me a for sure yes or no on that, but I'm pretty sure that it was. If that team doesn't win and they have problems, we've already seen one spot taken up by a driver in Daniel Suarez. I don't think any of us really predicted would be up there as a winning team. That points battle, it can sneak up on you. I think he'll be good personally. I think that someone like Logano probably should worry a bit more about that. But Busch, if you're not someone who can consistently win, you're not safe in my eyes. That's just how the system is. So, that team can't afford to make those mistakes with basically Kyle Busch carrying them most weeks. And that was just, again, inexcusable. I think it's the right way to put it. And he was. I think it was a top 5 to 8 car, and he got a 26th place finish out of it. That's on him and that team. And then Rippa, thank you for the 2. Also, big ups. All SHR cars finish in the top 20. They did. Well, no, they didn't. Briscoe finished 21st, and Priest finished 23rd. Top 23, though. Probably better than a lot of races last year. Gregson, the lone guy up top, though. But I think that about covers it. Again, not every race is going to be a banger. I don't think in any way that was a bad race. I actually thought it was pretty good for the most part. I think that just a lot of people are soured on Larson stinking up a lot of shows. And even then, you still had a battle for the win. You still had a fight, and I think that I'm just going to say I still think Reddick should have won that race. But Larson and that 5 team had a perfect day. There's no other way really to put it. They led almost 200 of the 267 laps today. I mean, it's just hard to beat that. And with a driver like him too, you're not going to beat Larson when he's on his game, having multiple mistakes over and over again in multiple facets of the race. Captain Joe, thank you for the Captain Tanker Joe, thank you for the 2. Family points redemption this week. Yeah, that's right. And then Nap Racing Fan 927 for the 2. Still unbelievable. FS1 missed Caruth passing Gray. I agree. But that about covers it. I'm looking at the forecast for Phoenix, and it's supposed to be in the high 70s, low 80s. No clouds, just sunny skies. No rain. We should be good Xfinity and Cup this coming week. Be sure to join us on the NASCAR Weekly Podcast this Wednesday night on Danny B Talks channel. We're going to talk all about this. We have a lot on the docket, actually. Thad Moffitt will be on the show in the first 20 or so minutes, so definitely tune in for that as well. We got the Honda news, Dale Jr. leaving NBC, the Reckless Speculation segment's coming back for the first time this year, as well as if we get to, I think, 350, 400 likes, somewhere in there. We'll figure it out by Wednesday. Random Driver of the Week, which I know a lot of you really like. So thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you this week. Later.